Donald Trump wants federal prosecutors to investigate his baseless claims of widespread voter fraud. But turning those claims into real charges, well, that is proving quite the challenge. According to the Washington Post, that's because many leads turn out to be either accidental or lack evidence of bad intent. People familiar with the cases tell the Post that the DOJ has investigated and then declined to prosecute multiple incidents of mistakenly registered non-citizens. In at least one instance, because the non-citizen suffered from Alzheimer's disease. In others, because they did not speak English or know the law. And multiple times, because the non-citizens themselves did not even know they were registered to vote. Co-author of that piece, Washington Post senior White House reporter Isaac Arnstoff joins us now. Scott MacFarlane is also back with us. Isaac, how much pressure is the DOJ under to find these cases to prosecute? And what more can you tell us about the problems that they're then running into?
Well, the pressure goes so far as every U.S. attorney's office has an election security designated person focusing on that. And historically, that person has been focused on things like election interference. But now that training for that person has been completely reoriented to be focusing on what we're talking about, looking for voter fraud. But in a lot of these cases, another tip that or a lead that they had that we wrote about, one IP address was used to request multiple mail ballots. But when they looked into it, that didn't mean that it was one person. It just meant, there are lots of reasons why there would be a single IP address for multiple users. Similarly, there was another example where they were looking into, as you mentioned, someone who they interviewed them and they had Alzheimer's or they didn't speak English well. There was no way that they could prove that these people actually intended to break the law. And that's the challenge. Actually, in one of the cases that they did prosecute, the way that they proved that the person knew he wasn't supposed to be voting was he actually went to the county office to cancel his registration. So he realized he had made a mistake and he tried to correct it. And that actually became the evidence they used against him.
Isaac, you spoke to one legal expert who called voter fraud, quote, the least perfect crime. It's leaving a paper trail for the crime. Explain that.
Right. I mean, what that means is, this idea that this is widespread, it would be so hard to do. And you're leaving that paper trail of registering to vote, certifying on that form that you're a citizen when you're not, and then going to check in to vote and actually voting. All of those steps, when they actually happen, are right there in plain sight. And much more often the case is they're looking into something in Philadelphia. There was a discrepancy between the number of voters who checked in and the number of votes that were cast. Looked suspicious, but it turned out the innocent explanation was for part of the day the electronic poll book was down, and so they used the paper sign-in. And when you reconciled it with the paper sign-in, there was no more discrepancy.
I mean, listen, Scott, widespread voter fraud just isn't a thing, no matter how much they want to try to make it a thing. And yet you look at what's happening in Alaska. There were 3,000 letters sent out asking voters to verify their citizenship ahead of this year's election. I think the question always is the simple effort, is the simple doubt that they are sowing having a chilling effect on this year's elections?
It certainly can plant seeds that they can try to harvest in November after the election if they try to find some way to challenge results they don't like. But the sense I'm getting from Democratic strategists and campaign teams, I'm talking to the ones who have been functioning in the primaries in the South and those who are awaiting their turn in the general election, they're thinking this is going to galvanize voters. Voters don't scare. Voters see attempts to encroach on their power, and they cherish their power. You saw remarkable turnout in primaries among Democrats in South Carolina and in Ohio, a test case, I think, Alicia, as to what's to come in the general election as Trump sows lies about elections. And they're trying to turn this voter fraud term into something it's not. These are benign errors, clerical mistakes they're trying to villainize as some form of malignant crime. It's just not that. Voters know it.
Isaac Arnsdorf, thank you so much for bringing us your reporting. Scott MacFarlane, thank you for joining us.